Good afternoon. This is the Townsend Finance Committee, calling meeting to order at 4:02 p.m. And I have a roll call voice for those members that are present.
Gerald Mazik is here.
Tim, you're on mute now. Andrea, did you have your hand up? No, that's me.
I got it. Unmuted me here. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Hayes present. And
Is Andrea on mute?
I don't see her on mute. Andrea, you with us? You have a number? We'll try to get her. Maybe just a minute. Yeah.
Hi, are you with us? Okay, it's not on, you're apparently on mute, because we can't hear you. It says, oh, I'll let you talk to Don.
Okay.
She's not muted. The problem isn't that she's muted. She's not muted.
She's on automatic.
Andrew. Yep. Do you have a little volume button on your computer? Okay. Okay. On the bottom is a little icon that looks like a speaker. They're trying to show it like a speaker. Dick? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, on the bottom on the right is a row of icons, and one of them's a microphone and one of them's a speaker. If they're missing, you might have an arrow that will show them.
A charger.
I didn't hear you on the owl, so I don't hear you on Zoom.
Does she want to come in through my phone?
Yeah. If you want to try to come in like we did before on the phone, try to keep it short. That works for us. Okay. Okay, we'll be.
Andrea, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Okay.
We got you. Bye-bye.
Okay, and Andrea, just acknowledge your presence, and we'll.
Everyone present.
Thank you. It's 4, so we have a quorum. We are good. The meeting is a Zoom meeting. It's being recorded and played live on Channel 9. At this time, the next item on the agenda is additions or deletions. And I would like to add on the first agenda, add conversation with the water department. And remove the reserve fund transfer request. None were submitted, so we don't have any to review there. That's all the changes I have. Anybody on the committee have any additions or deletions that we need to make?
Did you say water department?
Water Department.
Okay, what number was that on, please?
No, I think we're gonna talk
Oh, we're
about
gonna talk about, okay.
the, information that they brought.
We're just reducing the warrant.
Okay, on the warrant, okay. So we can jump to that, we'll.
That's fine, I'm here for long term, just go on.
Okay, if you're good with that, we'll hit it
Be
in.
here for the selectmen's
order.
meeting.
Okay. Then, we will bring Dave in at the appropriate time when we get to, the warrant articles later in the agenda. Okay, sorry, just trying to keep it organized and the agenda up with where we are. Sorry, I gotta share. Screen.
Cool.
So is everybody able to see my screen, the agenda at this point?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so let me try that again. Technology is not our friend today.
I got my agenda from you. There you go.
Perfect. Okay, so we're good. We're going to continue with the agenda. As I do this and I share my screen, I'm looking at it. So if anybody is raising a hand, I'm not going to see it. So if you would speak up to ask a question or interject something, I appreciate it. So where we are is the budget review. We have received a new file from Eric just a short time ago. And I'm going to share the version that I had with it. I have taken and added some columns so that we can identify where we were previously. Sorry, kind of like we'll get adjusted here. And so the current budget is in the standard colors, the gray, black, and white. I have added a few columns to identify what the value was from the previous version of the budget that we have reviewed. And when there's a difference, I have identified with a line that there is a difference on this line, and this is it. So if we have any questions of, rather than review the whole budget over again, this is to identify just where the differences are so that we can identify them and get some a little quickly. If I look,
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yep.
The previous version, what date was that?
Last week.
it was last week, but the date on the file said
Oh, that.
May,
Okay,
March
yeah.
8th or 9th.
Okay, thank you.
So that's so it was last week's version, but the up in the upper left-hand corner, it was identifying it as last month. So,
Last
the
revision.
last revision that we had, so the last revision was April 4th, but the date in the file said March 8th. So
But it was the one that we saw at the selectmen's meeting,
right. And again, this has a 4/10 date on it. So, these are the lines identified as the difference.
thank you.
Does that make sense, Andrea or Sam?
Yes.
And you have the full budget, but again, if we're looking at the lines, we'll use the line item 14. the professional services for the town report. It is now sitting at $5,000. Last one we looked at was 3,500. So the difference is, it is now 1,500 higher.
So basically, it's back to the 5 that was
It's-
required.
Well, it's up to, last week when we looked at it, it was 3,500. Now it's at 5,000,
which is double what it was like.
which is double what it was in FY '23.
Okay, I heard 23.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the 24 is the requested amount.
okay, gotcha.
And the explanation for that, that there was a reason.
I'm assuming that it's the cost of paper and ink has significantly increased. And so in order to get them to the printer.
It didn't seem like that would be double. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll just look. Thank you.
So it's double what it was last
it's double
year.
what it was last year. And the additional lines that are listed just play off because they're in the same area. The expenses line is 1,500 higher and the total Board of Selectmen budget is 1,500 higher. So for each of the differences, we may see multiple lines, but they're identified but we can see how it carries through consistently that it's only a $1,500 difference from what we're seeing.
John,
Yes,
just so I make sure that, because it's the first time I saw it, I
Yeah.
asked for a copy and it wasn't given to me yet. The answer to this, but if you're just gonna highlight the lines that changed, are there any positions listed anywhere that weren't existing last year? If you could point those out,
Will do.
that would be
yes,
helpful too.
Yeah, I'd like to see, and I think it'd be easier to do between H and I, if you could just show us a percentage change in there, between G and H, what the percentage change is between
okay.
last year's budget and
Okay.
this year's budget.
It's in here, it should be in the file.
Oh, there it is,
Yeah,
okay,
so let
okay,
me,
I just gotta.
let me,
move it
no,
down.
let me move it.
Yeah, maybe that's what, it's just kind of.
Yeah.
You know, you're concentrating on last budget to this budget, but I need
Yeah.
to see what between last year and this year and last year, this budget and this year. There we go.
No, hang on.
No, I gotta.
No, I'll get
Yeah,
there.
I know what you do. Values.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's not an active calculation, it's just
Yeah, I understand.
posted from the calculation that's real. This is, again, just highlighting things that have changed from the original file so that we can identify them.
Okay, so I represents the total change from last year to
Okay, so,
this year. I mean, Jay represents.
okay. M is representing the dollar value change last year to this year.
What made it go down, Brian?
On the town administrator line,
Oh, I know what it is. Never mind.
okay, that's okay. It's kind of like, so
I forgot.
So the town administrator, I wrote down, okay, so we have the percentage increases in here, to go along with the change amount. And then these are right here. Okay, so as far as positions go, if we look at human resources manager and community services coordinator, when we look at FY '23, there was $0 there. They were all paid for ARPA last year. What we're doing this year is putting the full amount into the budgets so that we can see what the full amount is that we are responsible for. But if we take a look further out, the description is that ARPA, paid by ARPA funds. So on our settlement sheet, we're going to have our revenue and we're going to identify ARPA fund. And as we move forward, when ARPA funds go away and are no longer funding it, the tax revenues and sheets and that are going to have to support this. So we have to take a longer look and a longer view of when ARPA goes away, are we going to be able to
So does
support
that,
and
does
fund?
that happen during 24?
During at the end of, halfway through the end of 26, I believe they go away. So they're funded all the way through the end of December.
Currently, and that could
Currently.
extend.
Okay, so when you get down to the total, you're gonna deduct those from,
We're going to show ARPA funds in the revenue bucket. And so that identifies how much revenue we have to replace later on. So yes, but by putting it in here, we see the full impact of the budget rather than just a single line. A line that says zero. It has a position, but no money associated with it. So it was a bit of a shell game last year. This year we see it
that's a good way to do
and
it.
identify it.
So you're not really deducting, I want to make it clear to people that are listening, you're leaving it in there and you're adding the ARPA funds into it, so people can see where the money is and see that it is and understand it.
But we're not
And-
voting on that amount
But
of
people
money.
start to make. it
When
very
we are not, that amount of money has been
Shows as
allocated.
revenue.
It's going to show as revenue, but it's already been voted to
And to
use
show
those
that if
positions
those
by the
ARPA
Board of
funds still
Selectmen.
keep coming in, we have to come up with additional ways to fund the.
And when does that, 25?
End of 25 calendar, but that's halfway through 26, FY 26.
Okay, gotcha. So we're assuming because ARPA paid for it, we're gonna keep them for now.
And continues to pay for it, right? Yeah, yeah.
And that would be how much we need to continue to pay for it.
exactly. Yeah. But by doing this, we've had discussions with the town administrator. We're going to start putting together a forward-looking budget and project out what the revenues are at some amount and what the expenses would be and see.
But that doesn't mean those positions are guaranteed.
Those-
Those ARPA goes away. Okay, gotcha.
Right, that would be up to us to fund it at that point.
Right, and the
Do we want to
community
continue?
service position, just so that you know, that's going to take a different opportunity.
Oh, I heard
So,
Yeah.
it does have to be advertised, I mean, it doesn't, we do have to be
Right.
advertised, not
It-
advertised, it
yeah.
does have to be known that it's an ARPA paid position, in that sense, that, you know.
Right,
we
if-
do that.
If we hire somebody, yeah, Right.
If those go away.
Yeah.
At the end of that period of time,
Money,
Well, not necessarily, we
I said,
will,
if they go away.
Yeah.
Let's say that you say, well, we don't need position X.
Mhm.
And when the ARPA funds run out, that's eliminated. Do we pay unemployment for those people?
Yes.
I would say yes, they're a town employee at this point,
Okay,
and,
thank you.
and we would have that responsibility.
So it really ends up a little bit more than that then.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, so again, there's been lots of conversation, and we're just getting started on the,
Thank you for reviewing
on
that.
that. That's okay, it's kind of like it helps us to maybe revisit where we are with it too, and just in case we'll bring up any questions, so. So again, the difference that we had, if we're gonna, do we want to vote at this point on approving the budget, or do we want to hold that off, review the changes and do our votes next week, in our meeting next week, just in case any changes do come in the next week?
I think we should wait till next week.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then I will just continue through, the budget with the differences, and if, I can also send this file with these highlighted changes, so we can see, so you can see them, or a list of the lines, however you want to see that, so you can see where the differences are, because they're not identified in the version Eric supplied to you. So, at this point, the accounting salary was listed at 50,600. In our previous version, it is now, or I'm sorry, it was listed at 50,000, and the budget is now 50,600. So that's a $600 difference than what we had looked at before. And that's a full-time
Wait a minute.
position.
Say that again.
Okay, so when we looked at the budget last week, the
Yeah,
line for the town accountant, the assistant town accountant, is 50,000. It
Okay,
was
yeah.
$50,000.
okay,
This week, we're looking at it, it's 50,600. So it is $600 higher than last week when we looked at it.
So that's not the accounting,
The-
the accountant position,
This,
that's the assistant.
this is the assistant.
Okay.
The, right now, the plan presented is we're gonna have an assistant town accountant that lives in the building. We're gonna have hire the professional services, and we can see a change here, in what the contract would be to Melanson to be our town accountant. The amount is now, $5,000 higher. We looked at 41,500 last week. We're now looking at 46,500 for,
but that eventually will go away too.
the idea is that the majority of this goes away. There'll still be minor, because this is two lines. This is, the professional services that they outsource anyway, with the addition of the Melanson being our town accountant, and they're certified, they're the ones that are going to be listed as the town accountant and responsible for town accountant duties. The assistant town accountant is going to be in the building doing that, learning from Melanson, and eventually the Melanson contract would go away, and the person as the assistant town accountant would take over, or the assistant will become the town accountant, and we would save the professional
So
service.
the assistant is going through all the certifications necessary.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's gonna take a little bit.
That's gonna take a little bit, but, it gets us to that position of, we have somebody that can be hired, trained, and continue on in the position with us moving forward. So, when we look at town accountant from FY '23, it was $80,000. Now it's a combination of the 50,000 and the 41. FY '24, 46. And again, when we look at what the professional services was before, we're looking at, it was $1,500. Now we're looking at a $45,000 contract for Melanson to be the town accountant. And so when we look at this, the difference total, we have a difference in salary of $600. So that's why again, there's so many lines. We have 5,000 for expenses, and for the total for accounting, we have an additional $5,600 more than we looked at last week. I'm sure some of this goes with the fact that I believe we're making an offer to the assistant town accountant position. And that's out there for that, what the offer was, and Melanson would have come back with their contract and finalize that.
Okay.
Any questions with accounting? What we're trying to achieve and the differences. Board of Assessors area, no changes in there with, there's no difference. Treasurer collector, no differences from last week. Legal, no differences. The MIS professional services. Last week, we looked at the amount, and it was 125. This week, the amount is 135, so it is $10,000 higher than what we had looked at.
Where is that?
I'm sorry, this is budget line 106. That makes sense to stick with that one. That column, the number. So line 106 is higher by $10,000. It would have to follow up. I would expect that is, we have the contract from Guardian in front of us now. And so it's now listed at 135 for the number of hours.
So that's a contracted service.
There's a contracted service it's contracted service with a guaranteed amount of hours and on-site presence 1 day a week. If we don't use our hours that are in the contract, they roll into an account and we can use that to roll out and IS projects. And so it's a bundle of money and a bundle of time that helps us.
Why did it go up 10,000?
I didn't see anything in the notes. I can send that question to Eric and see if it's just that we'll receive the contract and get finalized on the contract and number of hours.
So that's what you're thinking is a finalization on the contract?
I think so, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty hefty increase.
Again, when we look at FY '23 and FY '22, we were doing municipal transfers at the end of the year to cover big gaps in this budget. So this is reality. This is what we were paying previously, but it wasn't in the budget. We were paying it with transfers at the end of the year. So we get to see the true, and again, when you talk about an IT department and things like this, if we had an IT manager, you'd be getting that in salary plus healthcare. So
Yeah, I was just looking at it from an increase.
yeah, when you
But
look
I
at the,
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's better to have it here.
it's here, it's operating. We don't expect it to go down because previously we didn't have a contract until halfway through last year. Now we have the contract, so it's a known value that we can put in here. Before it was variable based on the number of hours used.
So what was the total expended? We don't really know that.
We don't know that. I'll go back. I can,
Yeah, don't worry about it.
yeah,
It's
it's
fine.
kind
I
of,
understand what you're saying.
but I know at this point we're overextended we're going negative on the 72.7. We're already negative and we've got at least 3 months to go. So we're going to be doing those transfers at the end to cover the deficits. Okay, that. Okay, I lost, okay. And that's the only line that changed, but it's, in IT, town clerk area. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through. Any questions from anybody on the IT increase of 10,000?
No, like it, but I understand.
Town clerk budget in total is not changing from what we had seen. The elections budget not changing. The registrars is not changing. Street listing is not not changing. Conservation Commission. It, sorry, it's kind of like lots of changes. I'm just looking at them. We have budget 162, 163, and 164 in the wages section. We have the conservation agent and the conservation support. What I'm looking at here is that the conservation support is going away, and it appears as though we're adding it to the conservation and just having one line. So we're looking at 44,606. So that's adding 24,000, and we have taken the prior amount that we looked at was 21,376, and it looks like that has now gone away, and it's just all on the one line.
So.
Yeah.
Are they increasing the hours for the agent?
We didn't have an agent
We-
for a while.
Right, and it looks like they've taken the two positions, combined them, because when you look at a $20,000 wage position, that looks to me like it's part-time hours. So it looks like they've
But that's
taken,
a union position and that's what they got paid last year.
right, but that would be based on the number of hours.
Well,
And so if we look at and combine the two, the conservation agent and the conservation support, looks like we're combining the two positions into one position, giving the entire salary to one person.
So that's a full-time position now,
One full-time.
One
one-time,
full-time
full-time position,
So if
So
that's,
plus insurance.
With a little bit more money, because instead of 41, it's 44.
Mhm. Okay,
yeah, that's, okay. I'll
Yeah.
figure out what's going on
yeah, so we can ask Eric that too, it's kind of,
Okay.
and then, so, and again, the part that triggers me to think it's two positions going to one is the clothing allowance is going from two-person to one-person amount.
It might be helpful if you make a note there, just
Mhm.
with your question.
Yeah.
You know,
And again,
oh, what is
On-
that?
well, this note, goes along with it. They're consolidating the conservation agent and conservation report for 32 hours, and four of the hours are paid by the opera funds. So this-
Until,
Until FY 26, halfway through FY
so
26.
is that in there, in that number too?
Those 4 hours are in this number. And again, in the end, we'll total up.
Back it up.
It'll be backed out in what is being paid for in the,
Yeah, but the math's not adding up to the, if it's only 4 added hours, how does it come out to $20,000?
okay, it's not 20,000, we're taking two positions of $20,000 each, combining them into one, and then we're adding 4 hours per week that ARPA is paying for into that.
so is
So,
that,
so the amount you see is about $3,000 that ARPA will be paying for, and that's the difference between the 41 and the 44 that are in there.
does that make that person
Yeah.
over 40 hours?
No,
No.
no, you can't, that's,
What
about the increase in benefits?
that we should end up seeing in the health, when we get down into the insurances. But by doing this, you're right, we trigger we trigger a
And
health
whose
insurance.
recommendation was this recommended by the finance committee or this?
No, this was not recommended. No, this is what's being presented. So I'm assuming it's town administrator working with board of selectmen to
Okay, thank you.
to identify it. It's
I'll
kind
talk
of,
about it. What the board of selectmen.
I know this is just a small amount of money, but just because the number is kind of funny.
Mhm,
Clothing allowance
yes.
Which for two people.
This-
probably was for the conservation support.
No, 600.
Okay, so it was two people before, so they were 600 a person, even on the,
Yeah,
It's in the union contract, it's 600 person.
so that decreases, so that's a benefit that decreases by 600.
because we're now one person
Yeah.
instead of two. Yeah,
But it's one person.
It goes down to one.
yeah, it goes down to the one person, so it's,
But you get twice the clothing.
So that sounds like it must be one of Eric, a recommendation that Eric's made.
from Eric, yep. It's, yeah. So that difference in the personnel comes to $4,419 less than we had looked at last week. Year over year, the change is 2,952. And then again, we have the personnel line and the total line that are matching the labor difference. Different lines. So there's three lines that are changing. The other two that are changing are just totals that reflect it.
What number were they?
167, 162, 63, and 64. The summary lines are the total lines of 166 and 173. Okay. Any additional questions in conservation? We want the clarification for, just to confirm that also increases the healthcare line there. Okay, we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. Membership and dues for MRPC. Nothing, no changes. Planning board, no changes. Planning Board of Appeals, no changes. Land use. So we've had some changes here. In the previous version, we had the land use administrator. Sorry, gotta get lined up again, get my columns. The land use administrator now is 2,127 less than we had looked at before. But it, line 206 says land use wages and grant administrator. I'm going to need to jump back. This pound NA that's in this cell tells me that I don't have an entry in this in the prior one, so I want to look at that. And line 206 prior to this, the land use wages and dash grant administrator.
The name change.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
housing and grant.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't have a match, but if we look at what was here before, it was 0 last time we looked at it. So they've changed the title and position. And so I'm just gonna manually fill in that 0. If I can. Okay. You highlighted as something that I had to look at, so, we're,
Is that an ARPA thing?
this is not gonna be an ARPA thing that I'm aware of. Let me scroll out.
So is that a new position? No, because it's
No,
been there
it-
last
it was-
year, it's just
Yeah.
that. 9 hours at full
Yeah.
10 hours housing, okay.
Okay, so that note helps, yeah, the housing authority in the housing authority trust.
Is that position currently vacant? Do we have a grant administrator right now?
We do not, the
That was Vinny, he left about a year ago.
Yeah, it's.
I knew somebody left, I just didn't know.
And the land,
It's posted on the website, the grant administrator is still up
right,
there.
and the
so-
land use, what was it, 8 months ago?
Yeah, land use was about 8 months ago. So there are a few positions available. If anybody's listening. and wants-
Actually, I believe the conservation person is taking that position.
Okay. So, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna scroll back here. So previously, we had looked at it and our difference is $8,000 from the previous version we had looked at, because we had previously looked at the land use administrator as 66,000. That is now reduced by 8,072. And they've taken and we had looked at $0 on the position that was here previously, and it's now 15,000. So that difference is adding 15. And so okay, so the currently in the budget for land use is 77,000 personnel, 77,613, which is an additional 7,752 than we looked at last week. But again, the notes are telling us that they're changing and combining duties and putting it into land use, and it looks like they're taking things from the housing authority and the housing authority trust. So that will be what we need to look at when we get to that section of the budget. It should be identified as different. Any questions on Zoom?
No. See what you're doing.
And again, the total on land use, so if we look at lines 209 and 218, those are just identifying the same amount of the change, the 7,752. Okay. Facilities. We had looked at the maintenance coordinator at 69,027, and it is now up by $295 to 69,232. I have it blown up, but just try to shrink it and see if there's anything with nothing in the notes that gives us any information. So, sorry, I don't mean to keep going and giving everybody headaches from that, but I want to try to maybe exclude some columns in. And at least that way I can see if there's any notes that are coming up and we can look at them. So I don't have any notes on the change, but there's
You have something there.
those are for the other lines, the difference line
Oh, okay.
that we're looking at is line 222 for the maintenance
Oh, I
coordinator.
got you.
And there's no additional notes out here to identify why. It is union. The step plus COLA was gonna be 4%, and which the percent change.
That's probably what it is.
Is that an administrative assistant for the facility?
We do, yeah.
There's a lot of paperwork and
She does the paperwork,
Does the paperwork.
purchase recs, things like that to help out. It allows the staff to do maintenance items and
well, it's
administrative.
it's pretty small. It's Robin.
Robinino.
Yeah.
Um, And we had somebody in the position this year, at the small amount of money, somebody had stepped up and did the few hours and turned out to be more work on the administrative side, so they, so it's being budgeted for next year for 10,000. And if we look at it, it's a C3 position for, 10 hours per week. That's what the budget's coming in for. And again, no change. That's what we had seen before. Line 230 is the personnel line, which is the increase of the 295. Facility energy is, again, we know that it's a big increase over what we had last year, but that amount that was in FY 23's budget has been expended, and we have a warrant article that's going to bump up that amount. And so we're budgeting again next year for the same amount, or a little less than would be the total that we had last year plus the warrant article. That has to do with the electric and the new rate that's been negotiated for the town and using that. That's why it's not as high as what we're gonna be paying this year. Then we have line,
I'm sorry,
Yep.
32 again?
232.
Didn't we anticipate that to go down with the,
Okay, so if we look at FY 23, that amount was 76,500.
right,
We have a warrant article that's going to add 75,000 to that, which would be a total of 151,000 for FY 23. So we are looking for it to come down FY 23 to FY 24 because of the electricity, and that's why we're not funding it at 150,000. We're doing the 125.
We have
So-
a new electrical board coming in that's gonna take care of part of this.
okay,
So it, you know, they,
I got it.
it's kind of, it's money, just the numbers you see here, plus numbers that we're gonna add to it, but, again, we are trying to, it's trying to be managed at a point that we're not, you don't want to tie up free cash by, and
Right.
over budget it and hit those numbers either. Line 234 for facilities and repair, and 236, I'm just highlighting all three. The facilities professional services is being reduced by 4,700 from what we looked at before, so a little bit of savings there. And the repair and maintenance for the building is dropping from what we had looked at last time, 36,700. It's being dropped to 32,000 for this year. So a little bit more savings on there. Line.
It's coming out of, the master plan, because we did put some funding in there, right? For repair and maintenance.
I would have,
Out of where?
I'll take a
no,
look at it.
there's no notes showing why. why the change, but, we can,
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. Where did you say it came from?
I thought we put some funding in, for painting and repair in the master plan.
Capital plan?
Yeah, capital plan.
capital plans, okay,
I'm losing my mind, what
Yeah.
committee
It's all right.
is doing.
I know, I know the
Capital
feeling.
plan.
okay,
might
that
have
makes more
put
sense,
that down.
yeah, master plan was,
Yes.
That might
Capital
be
plan.
why they brought it down a little bit.
um,
It doesn't add up, though. Capital is usually, well, usually over 10,000.
when we look at these two lines together, they're closing in on 10,000.
Capital's for over 10.
Capital is for over 10, but if the idea is that A-
Over 10.
a project that would, work and do some of these, if there was a capital plan item for, say, $15,000 that, encompassed more than what was here, but we're reducing this budget because they had budgeted in the repair and maintenance of the building for that capital project. They're now
Those two
reducing
line
it.
items are over 10.
Yeah.
No? Macro? Yeah.
What's that? This would be 9,200 or 9,300 and.
Yes. Yeah. We had it more.
9,302. I just needed to scroll a little further down there to see it. So the facilities. So the line 243, for those on the phone trying to keep up with us, we're looking at the difference in expenses for facilities is lower by 9,302. And then the facilities total, line 245, takes into account the personnel number that went up by 295 and this that went down by 9,302, and so that difference line is the facilities total is down by $9,000. And we are also at line 248, the general government line reduces or increases by $11,000 over what we, so total general government has increased from what we last looked at by 11,426.
John, just a
Yeah.
general question.
Mm-hmm.
Will the selectmen be going through all of this at the next meeting as well?
I don't know how much detail they planned, but they're at 7 o'clock, we're going over the budget items. I don't know if they'll go line by line or just major section. So we good with the government, the general government total? We've got nothing in police personnel, nothing in police expenses, no changes there. Fire EMS, no changes in personnel lines, and no changes in expense lines. That remains the same. Emergency management or TEMA is not changing. The communications center, all zeros, remains all zeros, not changing. No changing to the Patriot Communication Center. The building inspector. Nothing in the salary is changing, but we have in the expenses line 390. Professional services is increasing by 3,100. I'm sorry, yeah, 3,120. And the note is it's increased for the printer lease. So they're going to be leasing a printer for printing blueprints and documents, and so that's where we have that increase.
Does another department use that also, the printer?
I don't know if they do. It's kind of like I would expect
Okay.
this is, maybe not a general use printer for
Once in a
8.5 by
while,
11 paper. It's probably,
Alright.
I'm not-
Right now, they use ours. They come to the water department and use ours. The
and so this.
So now we're gonna have two.
water department has a scanner,
Yeah, this
It's a-
this
it's a
scanner and
big-
printer.
scanner and water to do plans. And they come right now in,
Use that. It's kind of
So
like,
they're gonna have their own then.
they're gonna, this would,
and it'd be in the town hall, because wherever,
You're,
there and,
Land use
Future.
might use it too.
right,
right.
so you have one for the town hall.
And, and potentially, I suppose, planning board getting ready for their meeting,
Sure.
get full size prints, so
Right.
having one in the
Good.
building was. So that's the increase in the building inspector. It's also the same increase, line 396. Increases expenses and the total building department, total is also listed as the same number. So that's one line that impacts the three lines. One change in a line has that.
And that's on top of the brand new professional services thing, right? I mean, you had a 300 increase there.
We had a 300% increase when the professional services in FY '23 for building inspector was 1,000, and going into FY '24, it is that $3,150 change for the lease of the printer.
do you release the one down where you are also? Dave,
Who was that?
do we release the one down where you
No,
are?
that's the one we allocated for, free cash for 10 grand. I
Okay,
spent 7, and we're reallocating that money to,
In another warrant. Yeah,
okay, all right, thank you.
let's get the warrant articles.
No.
Okay, so that's all we have for changes with the building department. We're good to continue? Any additional questions? Done being heard? Move to gas inspector, where there's no changes. Plumbing inspector, no changes from prior version. Civil weights and measures, no changes. Electrical inspector, no changes. The animal inspector, line
Double,
line 448, we're taking from where it had been 607 and it is now increased to 1,200 for the year for the animal inspector. If there's any no additional note for that.
Can you highlight that note for me, please?
Yeah.
I think it has to do with some new rules on raises.
It could be, and I know that position was posted. I don't know if it's filled it recently, but it was posted online, trying to fill it. So. See if that's the piece is.
Thank you.
And again, so that line 448, we changed the expenses line total by the same amount, and the animal inspector total changes. So all three lines are based on the one change. We look, Finance committee want an answer behind that increase, or?
No, like I said, that position, there's a
Mm.
new description in the job test that they also have to do
Okay,
something with rabies, which wasn't in the previous job description for that job,
Okay.
which makes the job,
the stipend for the job,
right.
pretty much.
Before it was just, are you okay, Carl?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. One, two.
One, two, but now, as well as you okay, Carl, now it all has to do with rabies infections of
Yeah.
any animal, other,
Okay, yep,
things.
Yep.
So
thank you.
I think that, but I don't know is that why they increased it. I know,
Mhm.
I do know for sure the job description of the
Yes.
inspector has changed.
Right. It would make sense that we need to, go on. Okay, moving on to the animal control, no changes. Tree warden, no changes. Burial agent, no change. Parking clerk, no change. So at the end of public safety, we have line 4990 has changed. It is, 3,689 higher, based on all the individual changes. So again, it's just a total line that is changed from the prior version to match all of the totals in that section.
So.
Yeah.
Column K.
Yeah.
Total 8.9%. That's reflective of public safety, everything.
That was, yes, that's everything in that public safety. So that's fire,
All of
fire,
what we
police,
just looked at.
every, that whole section.
So
And
this budget reflects a request for 8.9% increase over last year.
over last year's, but we also have to be careful. There's,
Is there ARPA money in there too?
there's ARPA money in there, and, if I go to.
Because to the novice eye, that looks like a hefty increase.
It looks like a hefty increase, but, I'm gonna highlight line 289, the, lieutenant, for the operating staff lieutenant. When we look at FY 23, again, we look at what was opera last year, what was, and so we may have funded it 1 year for opera last year, but that's a $91,000. That's $91,000 of it is a position we're now putting into the operating budget that we have to pay for with the revenues, not ARPA funds.
Okay, so that'll get backed out in your ARPA total.
It's not, there's nothing, it was
Before,
ARPA in FY 23 currently, and it's gonna be operating budget when we go next year. So that's why it looks, you have zero sitting in FY 23. And so it looks like we're adding a position, we're really not adding the position this
we
year,
added it last year and now we're just
and
maintaining.
now we're maintaining it. Yeah.
$91,000.
Yep.
Nice about it.
Okay, so that we were, again, the numbers line by line, and that can be, and as we get to, the idea this year is to write a section for something from the finance committee that tries to explain some of these changes and why it looks like numbers that are maybe out of whack, or identify lines that are different last year to this year, how the budget was created and prepared. But we're really not trying to, again, we back out those salaries and pay them with opera and identify them. It's kind of like it's hiding the money and hiding the true operating expenses of the town. So it's different than it was last year, and so as a result, we're going to look at and see things that look like they're out of whack.
Yeah.
I
I guess
we
my
have to
question,
explain them.
my
Yeah.
concern is, just because Arbor created a position
Mhm.
doesn't mean that we should continue the position.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
That's our decision to decide to spend that kind of money.
Right. Yeah, and again, last year, the position was in the budget and listed, so we sort of voted it at town meeting. And so that's the piece, that's why looking at it this year, we're gonna see the true value, the true cost,
Okay.
and can identify them. Okay, so now, the big one on schools.
Yeah.
So,
Talking about that tonight.
so we're looking at, the line, there's one line, the North Middlesex assessment is changed. The previous number we had looked at was the 12,355,000. Now we're seeing $13,148,444. So the difference last week to this week on the version is the $793,444.
Point to that,
Where is it?
Oh, sorry, line 493.
I don't see 700 anywhere.
Okay, the 793 is the change. I'm identifying the 793 as the change from last week. So in column L, this,
Okay, I can't see it,
You
it's
got
buried.
it. No, no,
because of
no.
the-
Okay,
People
no.
were in the way.
oh, sorry, it's kind of like,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
there you go,
sorry,
okay.
I thought I had moved mine down, but I forgot that I have to move the main computer down.
That's okay.
Okay,
So how much, what is it, repeat it again?
okay, so when we look at line 493 in the budget, currently in the FY '24 budget is $13,148,444.
That's
Right.
their certified budget.
That's their certified budget that had passed,
That they asked. for.
that they asked for.
Okay.
Yeah. The previous that we had reviewed in last week's version was 12,355,000. So what we're looking at this week is an amount that's 793,444 higher than what we had. So that, again, this is just identifying the difference on the line. If we're talking about the assessment, it is $1,105,217 higher than it was last year.
Uh-huh.
For the 9.2%.
Okay. But.
Yep.
All right, so school's a department in a way. School's asking us for what, the 12?
They're asking for a column H, they're asking for 13,148,444.
Yeah.
So we can, the yellow lines can hide and go away.
And so how did it reduce from 12 to 11 last week?
Okay.
Reduced fine.
It wasn't. So we had a placeholder in the budget last week for 12,355,000.
Okay,
We had that placeholder as a 2.9% budget increase over the prior year. So in FY '23, they had 12,043,227.
We went to the school board with that number and said that's what we can support.
This is what we can support, yeah.
okay, so the 12,355 is what we're saying we can support.
Correct.
We presented
Okay,
that.
Yeah.
so we stuck that in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so this week, they came in with the budget, for their full amount that they were looking for, which is
Yeah.
the 9.2% increase. Which is where we get into the whole, why is there an override on the ballot is to cover this difference.
but we've never given them the full amount that they've asked for. Why do we have the full amount in that line? Why not a recommended amount? Or are we gonna just vote this down?
Um, that's what it
I
comes,
decide.
right, yeah,
Okay.
it's there if that's how we want to go. It's the three-town vote, it's kind of like if everybody votes down the budget for the school, then
So that would be a simple no vote on it.
it could be a simple no vote on this piece of the budget. It kind of, and again, there's going to be questions about what happens to the school if we don't vote on what's the impact to the school if we're telling them no on that amount, they need, go
Then
back
they
and
have
look
to
at it
go
again.
back and,
They have to go back, reassess, they can come back with the same number again. But though, we're now going to get into that piece. Next year, I believe they're negotiating with 5 of their bargaining units.
and so are we.
And so I think when we talk next year, I don't want, it's gonna be a hard pill to swallow if they come back with those kinds of numbers 2 years in a row. Kind of like, so, we just,
What number are we looking for?
ideally, we would like to see the 12,355,000. That was, that percentage wise, is where we're looking. If we take the school budget and look at what we've had over time, in 2017, we were about 54% of our budget was going to the schools. If we use these numbers going forward, if we were to take these numbers as they exist today, our total budget and their percentage of it, we're touching on 60% of our budget is going to schools.
That's assuming that we're giving them what they asked for.
That's assuming that. It's slightly lower if we go with our number, but the growth pattern is every 8 years, we're gonna be paying 5% more to the schools for their budget and reducing what we have available to the town to support town operations. It's an unsustainable, as far as I'm concerned, it's an unsustainable pattern.
Anything over 2.5 is not sustainable.
Exactly, that's the
Okay,
piece.
that's the point.
Those-
I mean, both
yeah.
for us and for them.
Exactly, so those are the pieces that we have to, those are the constraints we have to abide by, and that's what the budgets are trying to put together using that. And again, it's 2.5 plus the growth pattern, the growth increases that we may have, so it's 2.5% plus maybe a couple of 100,000.
So I can see where someone might think, why don't we put what they're asking for in an override, give them everything they're asking for,
Right,
and we benefit from the levy limit increase for the next couple of years.
correct. Yep, those are, and there is room on the levy limit, it's kind of, so it's there, but that's
But we
what,
gave away a significant amount in increases in the town budget a couple of years ago as well.
we did, we took from stabilization and moved about 220,000 into salary.
Yeah,
Through,
so, I mean, cumulatively, because I know you know how to look at that.
Yeah.
If we go back and we see the result from then until now.
Yeah.
What was our increase at
right,
a town level too? It was more than 2.5.
Yeah. It was more than 2.5, but we were able, again, we had a little bit of growth in the town, in the tax base. So it's kind of like, so we did have a little bit of that would be covered or recovered by future. When we had new builds and we were getting new real estate tax, it offset that a little bit, but it's
Not
kind of,
happening
it's not.
now.
I'm gonna lose Andrea
Oh,
very
okay,
shortly.
okay, sorry,
You have a cold? Oh, wait a minute, hang on to it.
okay.
Is that apple or the other one?
Okay, so we're looking at, the 793,444 increase over last week, and so this is the full ask in the current budget for North Middlesex.
Wrong one. Yeah.
You need a
Yeah.
For the towel. Come back on now.
Okay. Okay, any other questions with the school?
Well,
It's kinda
that's a
like-
pickle, isn't it?
That's a pickle. That's a big pick. That's,
It's more than
the
a
big,
pickle.
yeah, that's the big number. And even, you know, so the
And
total,
it's gonna be more of a pickle next year.
Yeah.
Next year's gonna be a
Well,
big.
it depends
big
on how it votes this year,
right, and
okay? If you vote for an override, that's gonna give you some wiggle room for a couple of years.
that's what if we were to do this, my recommendation would be to look forward for both the schools and us and come out with that wiggle room. If we vote just what they're asking for this year in the school and the increase is this big next year, we'll be coming back again, looking for more.
You're gonna get it this year.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we need to take us on a path that we can present going forward, that we're not year after year looking for a 2.5 override. We need to have
Well,
an identified path.
I mean,
That-
I've always been a proponent of the schools, I still am a proponent of the schools, but that's a ridiculous
Yeah.
increase. And I wouldn't vote for an override to pay for that increase.
So, and again, I think the same holds true for the other towns in the district. So, we may be,
I mean, if everybody wants to get together and come up with a number that everybody can live with, that's a
Mhm.
different story.
Right,
But I don't think that's a number
Well, they
everybody
came
can
back
live with.
last week and they had lowered the number, right? And how much did they lower?
they had made some suggestions, but last night it did.
They voted
failed.
last
They voted-
night, and
okay,
they
voted
voted,
down.
they voted it down.
Okay.
They voted.
So-
not
They
to
voted not to
increase
do it.
their-
Okay.
It's gonna, so that was, so there was a proposal, to reduce their total budget by 1.9-ish million. And it was voted down last night, so that's why this full number is in the budget.
I mean, I think they're very conservatively estimating their revenues and their state aid too. So,
Right,
which they typically do, so
yeah,
it's not a realistic budget.
it's not, and the preliminary numbers are out, and I think they've applied the preliminary numbers, but
Yeah,
much like we
that's
have,
governor's budget.
so. Yeah, okay. Then I'm just gonna jump. So. I was gonna say, I don't think we support the school, but we're not voting, we're just looking at the differences, so. Highway, when we look at the difference in the highway department, it's line 529, the pavement management. Number that we've put in here, last week we had 210,220. And it is down by 8,746 this week, so it's still over 200,000 in the budget. We're still trying to fund that pavement management going forward. But again, we keep on reducing it. We started, I think, at 250 when we first started looking at the budgets, and we're sitting at the 201 right now, so
Why
that.
are we reducing that?
When you take this amount and apply it to the total budget, we're trying to balance the budget, and
Oh, okay.
this is,
So you're looking for places to cut
we're looking sometimes, yeah, we're looking for places to cut.
in
and
order to justify North Middlesex.
Not only for them, but,
Yeah.
But we
Yeah,
weren't able to put any in last year, I don't believe.
Right.
Justify for electricity and heat.
yeah. Yeah, again, our expenses went up like everybody else in heat, electricity, and then, water use, water rates go up, we have to support The town uses the same, the town facilities use the same utilities that we all do at home, and we know what we have there, and those are the increases. We don't get increases, the fuel increase, we still get all of those
No,
increases in
I
town, we just don't, it's, food is pretty much the only thing, food, that you don't get in town, that you get, so. We're playing with that number, again, line 529, the total in expenses that goes with it and the total for highway, they're all identified as going down by that same amount. Snow and ice budget has not changed week over week. Streetlights has not changed. The total for highways and streets is down by that pavement amount, so that's line 556. Solid waste, the landfill, no changes. Solid waste total, no changes. Cemetery and parks. It's a $7 difference, so I'm gonna have to say it was probably just a typo that brought that in. Cemetery and parks stipend had been listed at 4,000 and has been reduced from and removed from the budget, so it's a zero now. So the difference is the 3,000. The cemetery and parks personnel line is down by 3,993. No changes to expenses, so the total for cemetery and parks also reduces by that same 3,993. Any questions with cemetery and parks? Or that change? Okay. The Townsend Housing Authority, the amount we've had looked at was 4,460. It is now 505, so there's an additional $45 in that annual amount. Just throw out the no notes that we can see. For the difference, just adjusting the budget, and that's the change, and that's what we'll identify the difference. No changes in the housing authority expenses, so the $45 is also there for the housing authority total. Any questions? And then the housing trust, there are no changes in the housing trust, so that week over week, so we haven't seen any changes there. Board of Health, no changes in the Board of Health. The Sherwood Board of Health, no changes. Landfill Engineering, no changes. Council on Aging, line 651, the director salary is now 69,322. Last version we had was 69,426, so a difference of 296 for that salary line for the year. And again, that's no notes identifying, someone just getting the numbers. She's union. She's union? Yeah, okay.
What about longevity there?
The longevity is still at 1,400. Last year in FY23, it was 1,000, and we had one more person with longevity, so it's at 1,400 for this year. And so the difference, you see that gray column with the change, that's how much it's increased in FY24 from 23. There is no changes on longevity line
From what you saw last week?
from what we saw. Yep. And this is a big column and it keeps on jumping on me. And council on aging total is that same difference. So one line change in council on aging. Any questions before I'm moving?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna hear one and keep going. Veterans agent, and so the human services total is the reduction of 3,652. And again, it's a total line, so this is just totaling that, what the difference was from the prior group. So it's gone down, that section has gone down by that 3,652. As we get to library section, no changes in library total. The recreation, week over week, the budget is increasing by 2,000 over the year, but what we had looked at was 57,583. So don't know why the change, there's no note in there, but it's now, so the amount we'll be looking at to approve FY '24 is going to be the 55,435, and as I said, it's down 2,148 from the prior.
Can you highlight that on the phone too, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a 22% increase for recreation total.
What you're looking at for that percentage increase is largely on this support staff line. When you look at FY '23, that's two lines coming together to create a 5,400. We're transferring money from the recreation revolving account to cover $10,000 worth of salary. So when we talk about ARPA and things that are covering salary, we're also now including that $10,000. So it looks like a large increase, but it is being covered by
The revenue.
the revenue. Again,
I thought there was a stipulation that you couldn't use recreation revolving funds for paying salaries. I thought it was to go to the program.
well, they're
I
They
may
are,
not know the
yeah,
answer to
yeah,
it.
no. It's kind of, this person is the assistant and they're also delivering some of the program. So the money is, the $10,000 is on the books going into the general fund to pay for services that are actually delivered as part of, as doing her job as a counselor. One of the
So the personnel side of that is the 10.
the personnel side. So yeah, so the base, the town side for an assistant is roughly 6,800, and the money that's being transferred in, because they're already on our payroll, and it's kind of within the payroll system. You don't give a person two different numbers and pay them from two different places. We're paying one person. So accounting wise, the money is for the services delivered for the programs, not necessarily for the town
So the
part of it.
wages should be paid for out of the recreation.
Right, correct. And that's when we look at this, and that's why the change. In FY '23, we showed only 5,425 paid by the town, but the other 10,000 was paid and transferred from the account. So what you saw was a net
You're
last
still
year.
paying for salary with the revolving fund.
But all of the rec counselors are paid from the revolving fund for the services that they provide for the work they do. So
I think that's how that was supposed to be though.
that's, yeah, so it's
They
kind
were
of,
supposed to be self-funding.
it's supposed to be self-funding. Some of it has to be salary because the people don't volunteer for these positions. They get compensated for the positions of leading the programs. It's kind of like, it's just that this particular person is also a town employee. Okay. It's kind of, it was just trying to make it, so just,
Just highlight the
Yep.
note part with the $10,000.
Yep. Yep.
Because the question being asked, can salaries be funded through the recreation department's funds? That's
right, and if somebody is also an employee of the town and also,
Yeah.
supplying that, do they need,
It's an easy question.
Yeah. kind of like, so that's the difference on the recreation, is the $2,000 on the
But
director.
if you also highlight 22%.
Yeah.
Please.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound
Yep.
jerky.
No, it's kind of, this is for everybody, and you're our liaison to the finance committee, where everybody is, allowed to participate. You're a member of the town and, taxpayer, so perfectly. No change to Memorial Day bandstand concerts, nothing on the flag, and the difference is the amount of the recreation director. So that subsection is culture and recreation, and that's the subtotal.
Did that go up?
It went down by the recreation director amount.
No, I mean the memorial.
No, that is all staying. It's kind of like it stays where it was when we looked at it last week.
Okay.
Long-term debts have not changed. Retirement system has not changed. Unemployment has not changed. Health insurance has not changed. And so we have no changes in town budget, but the total difference week over week that we're looking at is, so last line 787 in the budget, is here, the $794,012.
Hey, Don, can you email me a copy of this
Mhm.
spreadsheet that I had you highlight to my town
Yep.
account? Thank you.
Okay, so that gets us through there again. We'll move, I will get this out to everybody so that we see you can have a, file with the lines highlighted with the differences.
So you go all the way out to M,
I'll do the whole file, yeah. And again, the lines I've added are highlighted in yellow at the top, so you can see where the changes are, and what I've added. And I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'll have to do a little work on the file just so that we don't have any trouble when the numbers pass. So there will be no formulas when you get the files. Everything will just be values in there, and so you won't see how calculations were done to get to certain places. Okay, we are run over, so we need to end, but and I apologize, we went long. It's gonna
Good job.
Dave has provided information regarding the amount. This is gonna be both for the Harbor Trace Water Treatment Plant, and all the bids are out, so we'll hit that when we look at the warrant articles.
Right. It's very simple. We're reducing from 7.1 to 6.1.
Okay.
So we're taking off $1 million off the project.
Off the project. Terrific.
All good news.
Yeah. Did you get that, Sam and Andrea?
Yes.
Kind of like, I'll scan in the document you sent us, and so, yeah, saving $1 million is, always a good thing. At this point, again, we're over. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 5:37.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, and roll call.
Daryl Mazekas, yes?
They had good things.
Andrew Wood, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
And Don Hayes, yes, we stand adjourned. Thank you.